Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Self Leadership Podcast. Today, Anna and I were joined by Carmen Balacianu, a corporate high flyer turned leadership coach. She discussed many things with us, including how burnout might actually be a positive thing after all. And my favorite takeaway from this episode was that we learned there are 5 leadership practices that might have a huge impact on you that don't even require so much as a pen. 5 practices that you can do anywhere, anytime, without a thing, just by yourself. And what could be more practical than that? So without further ado, let's jump straight into the conversation with Carmen Balacianu. Hello, everybody. Hello, Carmen.
Hello, Josh. Hello, Anna.
Hi.
Welcome to the Self Leadership Podcast, Carmen. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here. It's an honor.
As are we. As are we. We've only had a short conversation, you and I, but in that brief encounter, it left me feeling very excited for our conversation. So yeah, I'm really excited to kick things off today.
Same here.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, I'll ask you to give a brief introduction to our listeners and leave you to answer that in any way that you see fit.
A few years back, I was working in the corporate world. I was a senior vice president of marketing for Roche Diagnostics, and everything looked very beautiful and picture perfect from the outside. Yet inside, things were not going so well. And that led me into the career that I am in nowadays and that I'm enjoying very much and like to share all the experiences with the people. I became a coach, an executive and leadership coach by calling, not because I was trying to become a coach, but because life brought me opportunities in this direction and realized that I'm enjoying very much sharing that with the people. And I'm also doing what I call awaken leadership, a way of helping or guiding people towards themselves, going inside and leading from the inside out with intention and in a conscious way. I've been on the coaching journey now for over 7 years. I've enjoyed it tremendously. And what I do a bit different than maybe other coaches is that I combine somatic work, energy work, mindfulness, meditation, embodiment exercises. So it's not only about the mind, it's very much about the body and the soul.
So beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Carmen. May I ask as a follow-up, what is the one thing, if you can name one thing, that you enjoy most about your work and your calling as a coach?
I love to see people's transformations. So even this weekend, I was doing a walking coaching experience on St. Jacob's Way here in Switzerland. And I just love the moment when people slow down and they just go really deep within and they connect with something that is really true to themselves. And sometimes when that comes up, it's so transformational because it may be nothing that they thought about before or something they were keeping hidden. Maybe that particular jewel they found even leads them in a direction to take certain decisions which are difficult to take. You know, it takes courage to go in that direction. But just seeing them in that moment is just so beautiful for me because I know that their life will never be the same. Once it's seen, it's never unseen. So once that awareness is brought to the surface, their life changes. So I love that. That's what I live for pretty much. When I see that sparkle in their eyes or that aha moment, that slowing down, that quiet, going within, my heart fills with joy for them, knowing that they will be making certain changes in their lives that will impact not only themselves, but their families, their loved ones, sometimes the company they're working in.
And actually you light up and you have that spark in your face and within you as you share that. And Carmen, speaking of courage, what helped you muster the courage to make that very big transition within your own life back in the day?
It's very interesting because back then I didn't look at it as courage. I just knew that I couldn't go back to the life that I had before. I could see the life that was unfolding in front of me, and I just knew that I had to follow that path. It didn't feel so much like courage. It just felt like, okay, there's no way back. I think all of us, we come in life to a moment when we recognize, if I continue in that way, that to me, as I said, it looked perfect. I had a very good job. I had a beautiful family, 2 small children. Everything looked really, really well. I had a big team, a lot of responsibility. What I thought I dreamed for when I was younger. But inside, it didn't feel good at all. I was very often very exhausted, not because I was doing too much. I was doing too much of the things that were not giving me energy and joy. And once I realized that, it was very clear. It didn't feel like, oh, now I'm going to make this big transition and big transformation. It was very clear. I owe it to myself. I want to have a happy life. I want to do the things that bring happiness to others. What was difficult was letting go of the golden cage, the security, the perceived security that we have in a job like that, with a position like that, as well as to let go of my old identity of a leader in a big company. And my ego was pretty much affected by it because, suddenly I was not the position anymore. I was not a title anymore. It was me. And I had to let go of all those shields and all those masks that I was wearing. That took some courage in a way, that to say, okay, it is what it is. And I'm here, authentically me, vulnerably me. At the beginning was difficult because I wasn't used to it. I was used to the shields and the masks.
And say, Carmen, what helped you in that process? Dropping the security of the golden cage, dropping the armor of the fancy title. What was it that helped you muster the courage and let go of these things?
It's a good question, Anna. I'm trying to go back to it. It's been a while to remember what helped me. It's probably the trust that I had a very clear vision where I wanted to be in the future, and I started to become more connected to my values, to my purpose. I recognized that I was helping myself be a better person this way. And in the conversations that I was having with back then, the coaches that I was practicing with to get my ICF accreditation, I could see in them that they were benefiting so much from this kind of work, from me leading with vulnerability and saying, hey, this is how it is. They were opening up as well. So it was a step-by-step process. With every step, I recognized, okay, I have more courage, more trust to go in this direction because it's very much aligned with my heart. At the beginning of my coaching career, I was saying coaching from the heart, or leadership from the heart, how to connect back with the heart, because that was something I felt I was very much in my mind at the time. That gave me the energy to continue on the path. And as I was encountering more and more clients who were in very similar situations, I recognized that I would serve the world better from this place than the place I was before.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing, Carmen. That was really inspiring. I got lost listening to you share that. It felt like a familiar tale from me personally, but also for a lot of the guests that we've had on the show already. So yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that. And you shared some words there, some of our favorite words: values, purpose, vision, the path. And that leads us beautifully to the next part of our interview today, where I'd love for you to share with us, if you could, some of the ways that you're looking to live intentionally and what the idea of living intentionally means to you.
So when I think of intentional living, for me, it takes me back to choices. So it's the idea that we choose our life. We not only we make decisions, but we create what we want to have in the next chapter of our life. And I do this intentionally every morning. I have a moment when I meditate, and I pretty much set up my day. I try to think of the things that I would like to do that day and how they will come out. And many times at the end of the day, when I look back at it, I can see that intentionally or not, somehow it checks out that things are happening the way I was not planning, because it's not the planning process, but it's pretty much manifesting or creating our next chapter. So choosing what I focus on, what kind of thoughts and feelings I let go of, what actions I take versus reacting in the moment. Yeah, there are many elements of it. And so the way I see intentional leading is once we know ourselves and we are very much connected to our purpose, we are able to lead others the way we would lead ourselves. So if we are intentional in our self-leadership, we will become conscious leaders of others. So it starts with self. Yeah, it always starts with self, and it starts within.
I may be preempting some of the self-leadership practices we'll be getting into in a moment. What I'm curious about, Carmen, is, you've mentioned on the one hand, purpose, right? Which is quite a big thing, an overarching thing, almost like a meta thing. And then on the other hand, you've mentioned the daily practice of tuning in with, hey, what would I like my day to be? What would I like to happen? What would I like to manifest? So a very, in a way, granular daily practice. And my question is, how do you bridge those two? How do you bring them together? The kind of the big North Star direction and the daily intentionality that you just mentioned.
I see no difference. To me, it's a continuous, because I wouldn't be able to set my daily practice if I wouldn't be connected to the bigger purpose, that what I'm here for. So the daily exercise it's like a grain of salt or a grain of sand of the bigger sandcastle that I'm building, let's say, towards. Many times I ask for guidance. What is it how can I serve better today to be able to be aligned with that purpose and see what comes for me. Stay open as well to certain things. Maybe my mind is limited, right? We are so limited in our belief systems. And maybe I think I need to do this or that. But if I allow myself to be open and see what's coming my way and how best can I serve today, and being aware that something else might come up, not what I was planning, but it's all connected. It's all connected to the bigger purpose. I have moments where I just ground myself back into where I think I'm best served or I best serve. And then I ask to see what I can do in that particular day.
I absolutely love that, because my mind instantly went to, when I was asking my previous question, to, okay, there's the big purpose, then there's the daily practices. There must be a layer in between, right? A layer of setting kind of like bigger goals that are bigger than daily goals. And how does it all function? How does it all, go together? The Virgo in me who loves the lists and the organizational stuff was like, okay, I want to know more. And your answer took a completely different direction, and one that's so beautiful in that it carries so much trust. And from what I understood, as long as your North Star is clear and you're open to receiving, then things will come up and fall into place in a way that lead to that North Star over time. And that's a beautiful reminder that it can be helpful to surrender the mind's need for control and go with that flow and openness.
I wanted to follow up, Carmen. You mentioned the idea of the sandcastle, which I felt was like a really helpful analogy, that the grains are the sandcastle and the sandcastle is the grains. And I really, really like that analogy that you've used there. And I'm just thinking, if you feel comfortable, could you share perhaps for us some of your purpose, or what your sandcastle looks like in your mind? Because I'm just thinking that if our listeners hear the idea of creating this purpose or finding this purpose or allowing this purpose to present itself can feel like a huge task if you haven't yet had that moment. So my thinking is that hearing other people's ideas might serve as some great inspiration. So yeah, if you feel comfortable, would you mind sharing some of yours with us, please?
Yes, definitely. The purpose that I have for myself is very much connected with the purpose that I have for the people I'm working with, to connect with our higher self, to connect to happiness and reduce, or as much as possible, eliminate suffering from our lives. So if we are living in alignment and in perfect harmony with ourselves and the universe, we will be able to experience life from that place of love, compassion, harmony, and absence of suffering. So I try to do that in my work, where I work, let's say, with many people who are driven by performance. They are a lot of external objectives, to bring them back to themselves and see, okay, if I lead myself from within, how do I align with happiness, joy? How do I follow that path that brings the best for myself and for everyone around me? So once we are in that space, it's very easy to recognize what it's not in that space, you know? In my case, I recognize when I start to go after a particular goal and I'm very much attached to that outcome, I lose happiness, because it's not about the outcome, or my direction is about the outcome, not the journey, not the people that I'm walking this journey with. It's very much about that outcome, and I have to take a few steps back to disconnect from the outcome. I was like that in the past, right? Very ambitious, what I thought it was ambition and driven and goals oriented, and very much looking for what other people will say about my performance, right? My performance or evaluation was always from the outside. Now I try to come from within, and I can tell, am I doing well? If I'm happy, if I'm aligned with what I'm trying to bring in the world, then it's okay. Whatever the other people are saying about performance. And the more people I work with, they start to recognize it's all within and not outside. It's changing the mindset, and it brings more happiness and joy into our lives.
That makes a lot of sense, and actually I relate a lot to what you're saying there. And so I wanted to find out a little bit more about what that looks like in reality, if that's okay. And so I would have also, in a previous time in my life, describe myself as like performance driven and outcome driven, as Anna could probably attest to. I feel like in recent years I've shifted that a little bit now, that I refer to goals as kind of like a signpost. Like, I'm less attached to the outcome, but I like the idea that goals give me a direction, and I find myself trying to enjoy the path towards it, regardless of what the outcome happens to be. So I wanted to understand, how does this impact your life now? Does it mean that you no longer set yourself goals, or is it a case that you allow yourself to set goals, but you just don't attach to them? Like, how does this actually play out day to day?
I still have goals, and I try not to be as attached to them as I used to be in the past. So definitely it helps me to have certain milestones that I consider myself, okay, I'll go through. But at the same time, I give myself permission, if the path takes me in another direction, to follow that, not to stay so strictly to my original plan. If information comes or guidance comes from other direction, to consider that and have the flexibility to move in another direction if it's needed, because it might be taking me exactly where I'm trying to go. Versus in the past, I would have been fixated on what I thought it was the right direction and the right pace. At the same time, I give myself permission to slow down far more than I used to in the past. So in the past, if I set a goal and I put a timing on it, and I would push myself towards that result. Nowadays, I know to listen to my body. If my body has a day when it's saying, today it's rest day, as hard as it still is, I will try to honor the body, right? Because I've seen what it happens to me if I continually pushing, and I see how recovery looks like. Yeah, so it's changed completely the approach. The vision is still there. It's a big vision, and I receive feedback, and sometimes internally I'll connect with myself and see, okay, am I still aligned with happiness and joy? And I'm still delivering what I would like to deliver in the world, or serve the world in a better way. And I get these answers within. I don't try to get the, like an external evaluation. How is Carmen doing on her goals? It's coming from within more than it used to in the past. I hope I answered your question, because I realized it was a
You
big,
did. You
big,
did.
big question.
You
But
did.
please feel free to ask more. Yeah.
No, you absolutely did. I feel like you've given me an answer that it's like a glimmer into what the future of my journey towards this might look like. It's I hear what you're saying. I don't think I'm quite there yet. I think I'm trying to be a lot more closer to what you've described. So it's nice for me to hear what the future might hold. Let's hope one day soon I get there.
Beautiful.
But I won't attach myself too much to that goal.
Yes.
Let's see how it goes. Awesome. Well, without further ado, let's dig into some of these practices. Let's find out how someone might be able to stay very true to themselves on a daily basis and tap into how they're really feeling with these 5 self-leadership practices. So let's start at the start, shall we? So, Carmen, what is your first self-leadership practice?
I like to be very aware of my body's, let's say, language nowadays. So in order to do that, I start pausing. So pausing would be one of the exercises that I'll consciously remind myself to do. Stopping in the middle of my day, or even like I mentioned already, I do morning meditation and evening meditation. But not so much, people get so scared when they hear meditation. They feel like there's, you need to set aside a lot of time, you need to follow a certain routine. But if we bring it down to pausing, I feel it's far more accessible, because a pause can be a few seconds, a few minutes, how long you need it. And in that pause, I check with my body. So I check in. Pretty much I do like a scan and check in, okay, what is my body saying right now? I can do this, for example, when I'm faced with an important decision. I check, and I have kind of like now I have my inner language, and I'll ask, is this is this a yes for me to go forward, or is it a no? And my body will actually answer that. I have this inner knowledge, and call it intuition or whatever way we want to call it. But our body can give us so much more information than we think it can. At the same time, if I need rest, in the past, as I mentioned to you, I used to push through pain, I wouldn't even notice my own needs. So if I wanted to take a break, I'll just say, oh yeah, I'll take a break in a half an hour, but not now. Now I'm very careful. If my body is saying, you need a break now, I pause and I take a break. It's a practice that I hope I will be holding on to for the rest of my life, because it's been super beneficial. And it can be, as I said, something like a check-in with, okay, what am I feeling? What is the emotion that is predominant right now? Should I go with this? Yes or no? Do I need a break? And really listening, pausing and listening to the body.
And tell me, Carmen, say you're getting the information that you need a break. How can you distinguish whether that is truly a wise piece of information from your body, or whether that's the mind trying to hijack you from what you're doing and get you into, say, procrastination mode? How do you distinguish where the information comes from?
I honor the message, even if it's coming from the mind. I will take a pause. So it depends how long it is, right? So if it's as I call it, it's a pause, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it requires. If you come back and you recognize that there's some kind of obstacle in the way and you cannot return to what it is, I inquire further. So I'll try to find out what it is. It happens to me sometimes that I want to do something and I receive many no's to it. Even though I set myself a task, I want to get this done today, and every time I try to do, something happens, some kind of an interruption. I try to understand, okay, where are these interruptions coming from? What is it? And it happens in the past that I will also say, okay, I'll leave it for tomorrow. It's probably not for today. I got so many no's that today is not going to happen. In the past, I would not give myself permission to do that, because I thought, okay, whatever the thought will come to you, like you would say, oh, I'm trying, my mind is procrastinating right now. And if I allow myself to be in that flow, for whatever reason, the mind is doing that. And if I have the luxury to put it aside for a day, maybe the next day I just feel in flow and things move very, very fast with no push, no effort. I would tell you, it doesn't always happen, right? Sometimes I would say, okay, I really, tomorrow is something else and I want to stick to the plan and I'll push. And I recognize that I will spend far more energy to get it done than in a moment when I'm completely in the flow. It's still a work in progress.
Do you ever feel like you still need to resort to pushing sometimes? Or does it work out in a way that if you give it a day here, give it a week there, that you end up coming to flow whenever is needed ultimately?
I noticed that the more permission I give myself to follow that flow, the easier it becomes. At the beginning, I was pushing more because I had let's say a set idea how things should be done. Nowadays, I recognize when there is resistance, and I try to go towards the resistance to understand where that is coming from. And it could be that the resistance is within me. It's a fear or something else that is blocking. But I try to go to the source of it, because the action will just be the signal of something is not going. But if we go down and say, okay, where's the resistance coming from? Might be able to remove that obstacle, whatever it is. Maybe it's a stuck emotion. And then I can come back to the action that it's now perfectly flowing.
Yeah, no, beautiful. My question is for our listeners, who might be listening to you and thinking, wow, that's fantastic. I would love to get there. What's a good starting point for them? How do they manage to first get a better distinction between push and pull, how to lean in more into the pull when it feels scary to drop the push, and also how to start looking at the underlying fears and emotions? Obviously, it's something that you've already had a lot of practice in. For somebody who is completely new to this, what's a good starting point?
Yeah, I recall being there myself, as I said, where when somebody would say, do some meditation or slow down, it sounded like impossible. I don't have time to slow down. I don't have time to do some meditation. And I know people get annoyed when they hear the word again, yeah, you need to slow down. What I would recommend is actually pausing. Maybe not even giving it the thought meditation. I just stop and I observe my breath. I just take a conscious moment to breathe. I check how am I feeling. So like a question, how am I feeling right now? And not give an answer like fine, good, okay, to really try to identify the emotion. The body will tell us a lot. And at the beginning, you've worked with me, and when I ask, how are you feeling? A lot of people, they don't know how they're feeling because they never stop to recognize, okay, how am I feeling right now? Because we are afraid to deal with emotions. If I say, like today, for example, this morning, I was feeling sad for something. And I know if I stay with that emotion for 90 seconds, the emotion will dissipate. The emotion actually wants to be seen and recognized and heard and expressed in a positive way, let go, released, right? Many times we just want to push it down and repress that emotion. So if I ask somebody who's not used to getting in contact with their body and with the emotions, it will be, I'm fine. And I say, well, that's not an emotion. Can you tell me, name the emotion? I don't know. That's the very, very common answer. I don't know what the emotion is. Once we start to recognize even the basic emotions and we name them, they have less power over us. They start to be released. That can be a very, very, let's say, first step to just stop what you're doing, take a deep breath or even 3 deep breaths, relax a little bit the shoulders, and ask yourself, How am I feeling right now? What emotion am I experiencing? If you want to go further, you name the emotion and you sit with it. You allow that emotion to be, and allow that emotion to be released when the emotion is ready to go. Not because you want to push it away, because it feels too tough to face it, but because it's ready. And once you do that, even as a practice, you feel a relief. It feels like, a weight has been taken off your chest, because that emotion doesn't want to stay there, really wants to be released. And if it stays, you will create a blockage that might turn out to become a somatic illness later on. And so it's so important for us to actually give ourselves that 2 minutes per day.
Well, I'm very clear on my emotion today. It's tired. That's mine. That's mine. I'm naming it, and it's clear, and it's shouting it at me. So I'm super clear today on that emotion. Cool. So we've had pausing. Let's move on, if we may, to practice number 2. I'm excited to hear what this one will be.
What we've spoken about before is to stay connected to the bigger picture, with the bigger purpose that we have in life. That gives me, for example, a vision picture, a big picture of what I would like to see myself going towards, right? And it brings alignment in my actions. So it kind of like Anna was asking, okay, what are the steps? The bigger purpose, it's connected to values, to me bringing happiness in myself and others, reducing suffering. What am I doing today to serve that bigger purpose? And again, taking a moment to see, okay, what is it for me today that I can do? Allow myself to be open to whatever the divine is bringing me in that moment, and staying, I don't know how to say, I would call it even staying in that positive energy, in that positive flow throughout the day. If I notice that I'm going in another direction, if I notice that some kind of other priorities show up and they're pulling me away from what I was hoping to do, stay in that awareness. Is this maybe another road that is taking me to the same place? Or if I notice, no, it's just an interruption that is not leading where I want to go, to be able to say no without feeling guilty. Just, that to stay in alignment also sometimes require to say no to others in order to say yes to our own alignment. That part takes courage, and it still does for me when I have to say a clear no to someone that, okay, this is just taking energy and time away from what I'm trying to do. And it happened to me recently. I was in a collaboration with a friend who's also a coach, and she recognized that what we were working on would have taken her away from her purpose. And for a moment, I felt like, oh God, I really wanted us to do that together. And I knew she really wanted to do it together. And sitting with that, and in my heart, I recognize it's really not in alignment for her to do it now. She has something else, a bigger purpose where she needs to dedicate her energy and her time. And that made me feel comfortable with the decision far more than saying, oh, I could have said like, yeah, she promised and she's not delivering or whatever. But when you start to connect with the heart and say, okay, where is it that I need to use my energy and time in this moment? The heart knows. And we receive guidance in that direction. So it was much easier for me knowing that she's now in alignment and I can support her in that direction with an open heart and with love, rather than being resentful that she's not doing that. So yeah, I would say that alignment with the purpose, staying aligned with the purpose, and checking in again with the pauses. We can connect them all. We can make a program out of it.
Yeah, I hear you. It's the very much the daily connection to the purpose, and also, as you say, the ability to say no when somebody's trying to pull you in a different direction. And I really loved what you shared about when you start connecting so much with it yourself, you also start seeing it more in others, and you can then respect it more as in like respect their, for you perhaps, difficult decisions better in others when you see that they're connected with their purpose. And so my hope is that the more people do that for themselves, the more understanding there will also be for diverse paths and diverse decisions. But bringing it back to the kind of daily practice or the more practicalities for a moment, I'm wondering what your thoughts are, Carmen, on how to have that purpose as present as possible. Now, I assume that for you, it's, you know, you've had a lot of practice, so it's very ingrained, it's very deeply felt. For me, if I may share, one of the things that works really well is to have a vision board. And by that, I don't mean a vision board that has like a certain financial number on it or a certain, like a house or like, what I'm trying to say, it's not outcome oriented, my vision board, that it is, and it's not focusing on very specific things that I necessarily want to achieve, but it focuses more on what is the kind of person that I want to be. Right? Like what are the energies and the qualities and the values that I want to live and step into, and having that in my living room where I can see it every day when I have my morning coffee, when I you know, sit and read a book, when I watch something in the evening. It's so beautiful because it's a very visceral reminder of where I'm intentionally going. And my question is there anything that helps you with that, or anything that you can recommend to our listeners to make that their vision and purpose even more present?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Anna. One of the things that I'm doing with clients is also vision boarding, and there's nothing wrong with also putting some material outcomes in there if that's what you desire in the moment and is connected to the bigger purpose. That's perfectly fine. But what you mentioned is who will I be? Who am I when I am aligned with my purpose? Who's Anna? How is Anna acting with others? How is she responding to things? And so it's all about the being, not the doing and the outcomes. It's the being. So that's very important. And there was something else that came to mind. Yeah, when I work with clients, sometimes we do vision boarding because it's an excellent first step. Sometimes we do visualizations of and sometimes it's just colors, you know, like what is the color that will represent me when I'm in that space? What's the emotion that I will mostly feel when I'm completely aligned with my purpose? The more we going connected to the being, the Anna who is in that space, that human being, the better ingrained is in us. So it doesn't require anymore a board somewhere in the room, because you go back inside and say, who am I being? Or how am I being in that moment? So it's there with us. And my daily practice, I have like a small, I don't even know how to call it. It's my prayer place or meditation place that I have in the room. I call it an altar, where I have pictures of people who inspire me, and I have candles and my prayer beads and mala that I'm using, certain crystals and things that really bring me into the energy that I want to bring in the world. So it's like I get into that space. Like other people will go maybe to a temple, to a church, whatever. I made it inside my home, where it's my space where I connect with myself and with my higher guides. And that's the moment where I do that. Who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? Maybe I have some difficult conversations that day, and I set myself in that mindset. How do I want to show up in that difficult conversation? Or if I have sometimes maybe an issue with a person or a situation, I try to send good energy. I send it in the future. I'll say, okay, if I visualize myself in that particular difficult conversation, and I send myself love, and I send the other person love for them to be in their highest and best. So these moments help me to stay aligned with that inner being I would like to show in the world, because we all know when we get stressed, life is happening, we become overwhelmed, we become disconnected. I always say it like we have everything we need. There's nothing that we are missing. There's nothing to fix. We have everything that we need. But the layers of overwhelm, fear, and other issues that come from the outside, those don't allow the light from the inside to be spread outside. So the more we can remove, the closer we are with the true self. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's very clear, Carmen. And just as an aside, it's so fascinating how more and more I start to realize it's all about unlearning most of the time. You know, for so many years I thought it's about learning more, you know, learning, going deeper in what I learn, and it's becoming increasingly clear. No, that's not the task. The task is the unlearning and the acknowledging of everything that is here and has always been here. Yeah.
Mm.
Agreed. So we've had pausing, we've had keeping connected or staying connected to our higher purpose. What's next?
The next one we touched on a little bit before, and it's non-attachment. So how we let go of the attachment to our goals, and it's a form of surrendering to what is in the moment. So setting up a goal is okay, but not being so, I don't know, driven in that direction with what we thought we need to do. Just allowing things to happen for us, to really believe that things will happen for us, not to us. I was recently working with a client, and she picked up this card. I sometimes work with coaching cards or oracle cards, and she picked up this card that non-attachment is the gift that she will benefit mostly from. And it finally clicked in her mind when she realized, oh, all these difficulties that were coming my way, all these things were actually gifts. Wrapped in hardship. But from all of them, if we are looking at and recognizing what's the learning and how is this taking me further on the path, and it's actually supporting me to achieve what I set up to achieve, but in a very unconventional way, not what I was hoping for, or not what I designed for, but just allowing that it's happening. Surrendering it's a tough experiment. It's really, really tough. There is also a book that I can recommend, Surrender Experiment, by Michael Siegel. So you can enjoy reading that if you haven't done so. But he actually is going step by step into, okay, how certain things that can happen to just say yes to, and see how they are actually coming for us to take us closer to what we were trying to achieve.
Fantastic. Yeah, it instantly made me think of this story, which I'm not going to be able to recount it fully correctly, but I'm gonna try my best and hopefully gets the message across. And that is of this old man who lives in a village, and he has a son, and the son goes you know the story, Carmen, I'm sure. I believe it goes that he goes horse riding and he falls off the horse and breaks his leg. All of the villagers go to the house of the old man, and in order to show their commiseration and so on, whereas he's actually quite neutral, and they are like, why are you not more upset about this situation? Your son just fell off a horse. He broke his leg. And the old man replies, who knows what is good and what is bad? And they look at him, shake their heads and think, he's gone a bit mad, this man. And they leave. And then shortly afterwards, war begins. And the son cannot go to battle because of the broken leg. And so all the villagers come again to the house of the old man, and they celebrate, and they're super happy for him. Whereas he again is super neutral. And they're like, what is up with you? This is excellent news. Your son is safe. He's being spared. Why are you not more happy? And again, he replies with, who knows what is good and what is bad? And the story continues in that fashion for quite a long time. And it just really shows that we never, we don't have the full view of why things are happening. And if we trust that they're happening for us, then it allows us to embrace them and not to be caught up in these struggles. And it also made me think of when I had my burnout and my panic attack, which was a very, like, especially the panic attack, it put me in a very hard place, in a very dark place. And at the time, a friend of mine was visiting me, and she said to me, "You'll be surprised, but a lot of lightness and a lot of good is most probably going to come from this." And she couldn't have been more right, because it was the beginning of my journey towards myself, and I couldn't be more grateful for it. All of this to say that what you just shared really and truly resonates on so many levels.
Thank you for sharing the story and your personal story. And I resonate so much with it. And I saw Josh also was nodding a lot.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us who have been through, and not only burnout, but illnesses, really, difficult hardship, losing someone. When you look back, you can start to recognize that certain things are happening for us, maybe protecting us from other things, but being in that flow again and saying, okay, it's fine, it's happening for a reason. I allow myself to trust this flow. It's happening for a reason. It's not easy, as you know it. In the moment, it's really, really hard. But once you have a few experiences like that, it gives you that confidence to say, it's okay, I've seen this, I will allow myself to flow with it. And if I can offer, because we were looking before into practical things, with my husband, we are doing this. And every time like a door slams in our face and we say, okay, another door will open. But we use the story that you mentioned before, and we ask ourselves, is this good or bad? And the answer is, we don't know. Is it good or bad? And we always say, good or bad, you never know. And that kind of reminds ourselves to say, okay, let go, surrender. Good or bad, you never know.
Yeah, beautiful. And just staying with the practicalities for a moment, are there any other practical tips or tricks that you could share with our listeners that might ease them into that path towards non-attachment?
I would say to check in constantly to see where you are at, and how tight are you holding on to that particular outcome. And we can all see it in our intensity. How intense are we about whatever it is? And when we discover that we are intense and we really putting a lot of effort and pushing, to take that step back and go back to number one, pause, breathe. Somehow it's connecting. I set the intention to connect it, but it's true. In order to let go of it, you need to disconnect somehow, but you need to be aware how connected, how tightly you're holding on to it, and then allow it to be released. And check in often. Maybe sometimes you think you're not, but you're actually doing it. Ask other people as well. If you can ask for feedback, somebody you're working closely with, because they can see it better from a different vantage point. They can see, oh yeah, you seem very intense about that particular project or outcome that you wanted to achieve. So that will give you enough information to say, okay, what do I want to do now? It's a choice. It's always a choice to step back and let go a little bit and see what happens.
Yeah, my experience of trying to do this is it's basically forming a new habit, isn't it? Like that's how I remember it feeling at the time. Is I didn't have the habit of checking in. Like there wasn't anything that made me stop. It was like it was a new thing entirely. to try and remind myself to do. And so you can't really do it unless you actively stop to think. And so like you basically treat it as, or that's how I worked out how to do it anyway, is treat it as a habit. I had like even a reminder on my phone every hour. It was just like pop up and be like, how are you feeling? Like it was like literally trying to create a new habit. That was how basic it had to start, but it's super, super worthwhile. So yeah, I relate to this a lot. You mentioned there's a theme of these are all connected. I don't
I
think
don't
we've
know
had
yet.
ever had,
We'll find out.
I don't know if we've ever had people get 5 practices that were essentially all intertwined and connected. So I'm intrigued to see how far we get with this thread. So let's move on to practice number 4.
So number 4 is be authentic. So true to yourself. And that requires some vulnerability. So until now, we talked a little bit about emotions, where you reconnect with your emotion and you recognize your emotion. But be able to share that with others. Find also spaces where people will listen with their heart and create that safe space for you where you can be authentic. That nowadays is quite difficult to find because we are afraid of our own emotions, let alone the emotions of others. You know, if somebody comes and says, I feel angry, we immediately take it on like, oh, you know, it must be about me. And we take offense, or we try to protect ourselves. So we switch it, we turn it around. We're not actually saying, oh, okay, so tell me more. What's happening? What's going on? Share. Create that safe space where people can share their emotions. So if we want to be authentic with time and practice, we can find those spaces and also become that space for other people. Because as leaders, if we are able to create a small 5-minute routine in the morning meeting where everybody's sharing how they are feeling in that moment, and we all know how to hold that space and we let those emotions go, what comes after, it's miraculous. Decisions are made with ease, connections are built, people have more trust for the others. It becomes more of a community connection rather than a working space. I'm not advocating definitely for things that many people say, oh, I feel like it's a family at work. I think we need to be very, very careful. Work is not our family and family is not work. So keep those two separate. But if we are able to be more ourselves in the working space, so true, really true. Like if something happened, I had people even sometimes they had an accident on their way to work, and they arrive at work and they would say, I'm fine. Everything is fine. And recently I was watching, I need to find this video to share it with you. It was a person in a very high ranking role in the US military saying, you know, it is at a press conference, and the journalists are asking, how are you feeling? We know your wife just passed away. And the guy is in a car accident, and the guy is just saying, yeah, you know, yeah, just continue. Let's continue with talking about the things we came here to do. And they ask, oh, and how are your daughters? Well, they were both involved in the car accident. One is in a coma and one is in a really bad situation. But, you know, we are here to do our job. And so let's continue doing our job. How disconnected you must be in that moment, not to stop, to take that pause and say, wow, you know, my life has been affected in such way that work is not the most important thing right now. And also to give permission to other people, because if we are leaders and we act like that, what is the expectation for the others to be doing in their moments of crisis? And if they are not able to share, you know, like, oh, even small things, you know, my child was ill this morning and my morning routine was really turned upside down, and I'm feeling stressed and overwhelmed this morning. Let me take a breath, really arrive here, let go of all that. Now I'm here. Okay, now we can proceed. A lot of people try to, as I said, suppress emotions, suppress what happened to them, and one day it's too much and it all comes bursting out because it was just too much. We didn't manage it throughout our life. So yeah, being real, being authentic, letting go of perfection. We don't need to be perfect by any means. We are already. So let go of that. Just be more true to who we are.
And say, Carmen, if I feel mostly very happy about who I am, and yet there are a few things that I still am working on and want to change, and that I'm not proud of, not happy with, say like a bad habit that that is still kicking around, and where the intention is, hey, I want to let go of this, and it's a work in progress. And sometimes there is some self-judgment, right? As much as we try to catch ourselves, it can still creep in. And so my question is, how do we best go about sharing ourselves fully and authentically when there are still parts within us that we haven't fully embraced ourselves, or where there is still kind of need to change or want to change, accompanied by self-judgment?
What you shared right now, the way you shared it authentically, already gives permission to other people to recognize I also have something in me like that. We all have some kind of dark shadow that we don't want to bring into the light. The same as emotions, that wants to be integrated. It's part of us. It's part of who we are. And it can only be integrated with love and kindness and acceptance that is also part of me. When you start sharing and other people recognize, okay, I have that. So I already felt permission as soon as you started to share. It's not about hiding that part because I'm ashamed of it, or I feel guilty that I'm still doing that particular habit. As soon as you say, I'm still not there where I would like to be. It's difficult. It's hard. That authenticity gives permission to other people to be human as well. If you show up as the perfect Anna, everything is like I used to be, like the perfect Carmen, right? Everything was perfect. If you ask me how things are going, everything was fine, always good. Never sharing because I felt uncomfortable to share also the parts that were not yet integrated. And we all have them. I'd say everybody, we all have something where we say, okay, there is something that still not there where maybe I would like it to be, or I haven't accepted it fully, because in the end, it doesn't really require any change. When we fully accept it and we love it, it might just go away. It might just dissipate. But because we don't, it's just showing us, hey, you're still not fully loving yourself. It's still there, you know? So by doing so, by speaking up, by showing that you are still on the process, still going through, it gives others to permission to be human and connect with that human part. That's how you do it, exactly the way you did it right now. You just
And thank you, Carmen. Now, obviously, I feel very, very privileged that I was able to share that with you and the two of you here, because I feel very, very seen by both of you. I feel like both of you are not judging me, and this is an environment that feels quite conducive to showing up authentically. And I guess my question is, when you don't know a person yet or a group of people yet, what's the best approach to gauge, hey, is this a safe and conducive space for authenticity? Or is it a space where, yes, I'll be authentic to a certain degree, but where I don't want to open too much because it's just not the right environment?
what I learned through my practice and also working with large groups is lead with authenticity, because once we do that, people start to open. So if I come in with gauging, with mistrust, let me see what they say and then I'll respond, I already no, I lost that opportunity for true connection with the group. So I would lead with sharing something that is quite vulnerable. And then it's in our human nature that we will respond. It's the same way as you want the world to smile at you, you start to smile first. You want love, you share love. You want to receive, you give. It's pretty much, the easy. Oh, we all know. We all know this. But
And
how do we do it? Yeah, by being the first one.
and yet it falls flat sometimes, it does, right? Sometimes you share something from the heart, and then the other person might not be ready to hear it yet, and then they say something that's quite judgmental, perhaps. That then requires a lot of self-holding to to be okay with that, to move through that, and to not lose touch with your own connection. My hypothesis is that yes, taking one step forward as the starting point is great, and at the same time it's wise to gauge, hey, how far can I go with this person, with this group of people, without it then requiring a lot of self-holding. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this.
What I notice is that more connected you are to yourself, and to say the more of the wounds that are healed, you can see the person in front of you for who they are. So if it comes back with a judgment, you know it's coming from a place of suffering. And you start to see them for who they are. It's a person who's still in suffering, and you can mention something with love. Still, if you manage to stay with love and kindness, and you manage to say like, wow, I opened towards you, and I shared all that from my heart, and what I observed is this response from you. I'm very curious, where is that coming from? And you go with love and curiosity, they might realize, oh wow, was it me who did that? Because it's a reaction, it's a protective mechanism, and you give them the opportunity to open. If you notice that they are not going any further, and it's not about yourself, because if we say like, I get hurt because they didn't answer, I recognize, wow, my body is saying there's still some work to do in that area. I took offense. There's some work to do. Thank you for that gift, right? Thank you for letting me know there's still some work to do. If you see that they are not going anywhere, you also can say, wow, okay, that's fine. It's not about me, it's them, it's on their journey. They are not there yet, and that's okay. It's perfectly fine. I still don't take it personally. It does require work. Yeah, it requires all that inner work. But once we are in that place, we become those beacon of light for the other people around us, because they can have a transformative moment then when you go towards them, still open, knowing that they cannot hurt you because you're healed. So once you are healed, no buttons anymore.
Absolutely.
I'm not there yet. I still have my buttons. So, but I recognize them more often,
Yeah.
and I can speak about it more than in the past. Probably that's the reason why we have so many protection mechanisms, so many shields, and so many masks, because we are afraid to be hurt again. So as we do the inner work, we can become more conscious leaders for ourselves and others.
There is an element of full circle here as well, because the way that you phrased your suggested response may actually offer the other person a pause for themselves. Like you said, like their initial reaction is probably just that. It's a reaction. It's maybe one they're not even conscious of. It's the habit that I've referred to. It's a reaction at speed. And actually your posed question of where did that come from may actually encourage them for the first time on that topic, or to pause. So that the theme remains, and there is a full circle here. And so with that, let's move on to our final practice for today. Carmen, what is practice number 5 for you today?
Thanks, Josh, for bringing it all together.
We wrap it up.
My number 5 practice, I would say, being grounded And for me, that means being grounded in myself, but also in nature. So my connection with nature, this practice is very important to me. You might have seen me walking on the St. Jacob's Way here in Switzerland. I'm preparing a retreat on El Camino in July. So walking in nature, connection with nature, seeing the beauty of nature, grounding myself in, I call it in the divine. That is a practice that I try to do daily. If I don't manage to go out every day, then I try to do something at home with visualization and putting myself out there with the mind and being in that space. So how to be really connected to what is. I don't know how to explain it better, but
let me follow up by asking you, Carmen, what is your intention behind connecting with nature?
I wouldn't call it an intention. For me, it's like coming home. So in meditation, for example, I'll go home to silence. I'll go home to that feeling of a connection to something bigger than myself. And it's the same with nature. It's awe. It's beauty. Is love. It's all there is. So I try to do this for myself, to embody that presence in nature. How I can feel connected. Who am I when I'm connected to that space? And I do this with leaders as well in different practices, how to feel really deeply connected. And nature helps us do that. Once we are outside in nature, somehow some kind of layers fall by themselves. We don't have to push them away. They just fall. Nature is a big element. Actually, when I was recovering from burnout, I took on a practice to go to the forest. I was going daily. I even had it like Josh in my calendar. Every morning meditation in the forest. I still have it there as a reminder. When I can, I go. But now I do more walking and different kind of activities. And I would just go in the nature and listen. So try to do nothing and be as much as possible. Listen to the sounds of the birds, the bees, see the trees, the different shades, the shadows, the sun, just really being present and grounded in that beauty. Already it quiets the mind. It's that pause that we spoke at the beginning as well. It helps the thoughts take a break for a while, because when we are connected with our senses, somehow the mind quiets. So the smell, the taste, the touch, hearing, seeing, those for me were the most important part, to reconnect with my senses. And I still use it nowadays in retreats when I see people are very much disconnected, to just say, okay, just be, sit there, do nothing, try to do nothing and see how it feels. Dolce far niente, it exists for a reason. Try to just go in a field and try to recognize the different songs of the birds, or the different sounds that come from the bees and the insects and the earth. Try to hear the plants growing, or connect with the tree. It's such a beautiful practice.
Agreed. And it feels like a wonderful place for us to end, or pause until next time, if we could. And so with that in mind, Carmen, would you be able to give our listeners a very brief recap of your 5 self-leadership practices today?
Definitely. We started with pausing. I think that was the first one. Alignment with the purpose and a clear vision. Then non-attachment. We looked together at that. And authenticity. Yeah, vulnerability and authenticity. And this last one that we just explored together right now, being grounded.
We really appreciate you coming on the show, Carmen. We appreciate your time and your openness, of course. I think one of my personal favorite things about today's conversation is I'm going to describe it as the first hands-free episode of the Self Leadership Podcast. And by that, I mean all of your practices can be done with not one resource. Like, you can do them. You don't even need a pen to do any of these five practices. You can do it whenever, wherever, however. It literally requires nothing, and therefore I can think of no more practical tips we could possibly share than the 5 that you've given us today. Thank you so much for
I
sharing them with us.
absolutely love that, and I'm gonna use it, Josh.
Feel free. Feel free.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carmen.
Thank you, Anna.
Well, let's bring that to a close. And that concludes another episode of the Self Leadership Podcast. Carmen, thank you so much for joining us. Anna and I are super grateful. And until next time, everybody, thank you.